In prison, just like the streets, people lose their lives over nothing. And I remember this particular moment. It's clear as day. It was the moment that I realized that prison was real and you were not home until you were home. I was on a level 4 Sussex 2 state prison, and at the time, 3 years into my bid, finally somewhat finding normalcy, if that makes sense. More, I guess a better word would be routine. And I was bidding. I was working in the tray room, in the kitchen, which was good because I got to eat in the kitchen. I got to steal some things, hustle sugar, fruits to make certain beverages. And not for nothing, it took up a large amount of my day, you know? I saved on commissary. It was all right. And another part of it was I had built what you do in prison, a social circle with other kitchen workers, etc. One of them was Brother T, man. And Brother T was a good dude. And I remember one of the best memories with Brother T in the tray room is we were trying to wash 1,000 trays after a meal, tired, probably had worked all 3 meals. He was singing Dr. Dre's Explosive, and I was singing along. And for just a few seconds, I forgot that I was in prison. And anybody that's ever been incarcerated, they know the value of having an individual you can call brother or friend that you can build with, laugh with in the midst of that hell, that place called prison. And they can make you forget that you're there just for a couple seconds. You understand what I'm saying? He was that type of brother, man. He was positive. He had every right to be so. Brother T was getting ready to go home, and I remember when he came to me and said, yo, this is my last day in the kitchen. They're getting ready to move me across the yard. I'm getting ready to go home. It was bittersweet, but it was good. You know, it was a moment to be celebrated. It was also a reminder that I still had 14 years left on my prison sentence. And, man, I just, at the time, remember hoping, praying that I would make it through. After all, Sussex 2 was one of the worst prisons, and so much so that anybody that's been there can attest to that, stamp that, and it's closed down now. I wonder why. I remember when Brother T moved across the yard being happy and telling him, yo, good luck, you blessed, you about to be in that free world, that's what it is. And he said, man, I'm not there yet. He said, but you're right, I'm on my way. And that was him. He was wise. He would have certain responses. He gave me game. He taught me how to bid, you know, certain things, man. I had a few good old heads or older brothers around me that showed me the way, even in a place like that. He was one of them. What happened, though, well, it twisted my whole perspective on things and made me realize just how serious prison was. There is a place in your bid where you can forget how serious the environment is, even if things are happening around you because it hasn't happened to you or the people that you're attached to, even in a closed-in space like prison. Things were happening around me, but nothing had happened personal. I seen people get assaulted and worse, but nothing happened to me or mine, so it wasn't really that deep with me. It was similar to growing up in the hood and just saying to myself, man, me and mine's gonna stay clear. We good. It's not us. We ain't got nothing to do with it. I see but don't see, hear but don't hear. Keep it moving. But eventually, over time, if you're in that environment, you or yours will get impacted. That day will come. What happened was Brother T was on the small yard. It was Saturday. He was supposed to go home Monday. What, 2, 3 days, however you count those days, before he went home after a 10-year prison sentence. And while he was on the yard too, you're supposed to be semi-protected because it's controlled movement, which means you're only on the rec yard with your pod. That's how it's supposed to be, right? But human error exists, and so do crooked guards. That's the truth. Brother T was on the yard, and a lot of people would say, well, he shouldn't have been on the yard. He should have been locked down in the cell. And I'm not going to necessarily disagree. When you get down to the end of your prison sentence, do not tell people when you're going home. If you get moved and you can't hide it, that's cool. But don't add fuel to the fire by giving specific dates, man. Sometimes they may assume that it was an accident move, and that might be better. Brother T was suddenly on yard 2, supposed to be in a semi-safe, controlled space, enjoying some sunshine, shouting out some people on the yard that he knew he wasn't probably ever going to see again because some of those same brothers were never coming home. Over 70% of the camp had life. And in that moment, all of a sudden, Brother Anthony was getting assaulted. He was getting jumped by multiple individuals. And what bugs me out is nobody came and helped them. Like nobody. Everybody stayed out the way. And I get that. But at the same time, there were a couple people on their yard that claimed that they were his brothers. They were cool. They believed in what he believed in, etc. And none of them jumped in. They didn't holler, scream, move, nothing. They didn't even blow no air that way. While the rest of us were on separate yards, they probably would have jumped in at least to try to break it up, do something. And yeah, man, maybe it's not your business. But when it's you and yours, man, you want to make sure everybody stays alive in an environment like that. Brother Anthony was getting assaulted and jumped, and he was outnumbered. He couldn't do much. And if you've ever seen an individual that was knocked out on his feet, still able to walk, but out of it, groggy, he had took a lot of hits. And that's where he was at in that moment. That was his state. And I was watching people that were on that yard gravitate towards the fence to get out the way. And they were watching it just like the rest of us. And it was unraveling like a movie scene. Brother T was following the brothers, asking out of it, why did you jump me? Why did you? He's screaming, almost hollering. And again, anybody could have just put a hand on his shoulder, stopped it, because in truth, the individuals that he was following that had already assaulted him were trying to walk away, but he was still out of it, trying to figure out and assess why. And later on, a reason would come out, which we don't know if it's necessarily true. But what happened was he followed him too much, and the brother said enough is enough, and he turned around, he took a piece of steel out, he hit Brother Anthony 2-3 times in the chest area. When Brother Anthony got hit, he stumbled to the fence and he leaned against it and almost took a knee, if you will. What was ironic, in this time the guard came out. The guard started to walk out to scream his name or yell his name to get him to come to visitation. His family had came to the prison just 2-3 days before he was getting ready to come home from that 10-year prison sentence to give him some love, some motivation, an encouraging word. And instead, when they got there, they were told visits were canceled, because when the CO walked the fence looking for Brother T, it was only then, and he looked down, seen Brother T, tapped the fence, and Brother T fell over. And when he did, anybody that was there, anybody that witnessed it, anybody that seen him get placed on that gurney, they know he was gone. I don't care what any guards say. What's unfortunate, from what we heard, I can't verify or put a stamp on it, his family didn't find out that Brother T was deceased until Monday, when they came back to pick him up and they were met by chaplains in the parking lot. If that's true, oh my goodness. Could you imagine coming to pick up your loved one from after all that time, waiting 10 years, only to be met with the chaplain and told that he's never coming home to you? And if he is, it's because you have to place him in the ground now. The reason for many people that are asking why this occurred was, at least the word that was given, that he owed a debt. And he had promised the individual that assaulted him with his homeboys his TV, a 5-inch Magnavox color TV, which was a prized possession. And people say, well, is it that serious? It's a 5-inch TV? And yes, in prison, it is that serious. It's principle, it's whatever, right? And people don't even need a reason half the time. But what it was Brother T had agreed to give the individual the TV to pay off his debt, but Brother T's cousin had came onto the compound, or somebody that he was cool with, at that same exact time that he was supposed to pay his debt off with the TV. And instead, Brother T had chose to give his TV to his family member who was getting ready to start off his prison sentence. And he didn't pay his debt, and he thought that he would be able to duck the individuals and the group that assaulted him, which led to him losing his life. That was the reason that was given on the yard over and over again, even from people that were cool with him. I'm not here to say it was true, but what I am here to tell you is prison is a harsh, cruel place, and it's not over till it's over. Stay free.